Welcome to the Fundamentals of Fitness, the podcast where we strip away the noise, the guilt, and the unrealistic expectations around health and fitness, and we focus on what actually works in real life. I'm Alison, your no-nonsense coach. Today, I want to talk about something that I think is one of the most misunderstood parts of the human body: muscle. Now, if I say the word muscle, what comes to mind for you? Maybe you picture bodybuilders, heavy weights, protein shakes, people flexing in front of mirrors. Or perhaps you think, I don't want big muscles. I'm too old for that. That's not really my goal. But what if I told you that muscle has very little to do with looking like a bodybuilder and almost everything to do with how well you live your life? Because if I could prescribe one thing to improve your health, help you stay independent as you age, support your metabolism, reduce your injury risk, and improve your quality of life, it wouldn't be a supplement. It would be building and maintaining muscle. And today, we're going to explore why. So pop on those trainers or grab that cuppa and let's dive right in. One of the questions I ask nearly every new client is, why have you come to see me? And the answers are usually quite similar. I want to lose weight. I want to tone up. I want to get fitter. I want more energy. I want to feel healthier. Very rarely does someone walk into the gym and say, Alison, I'd really like to increase my skeletal muscle mass because I understand its role in glucose regulation, bone health, and healthy aging. And that's really quite understandable. Most people aren't thinking about muscle in that way. But maybe we should, because muscle isn't just something that helps you lift heavy things. It's one of the most important tissues in your entire body. And the more we understand it, the more we realize that strength training isn't just about changing how we look. It's about changing how we function. It's about investing in the future version of ourselves. So let's give the muscle the credit it deserves. And when most people think about organs, they think about the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys. Muscles rarely make that list. But here's something fascinating. In recent years, scientists have started recognizing skeletal muscle as much more than simply the tissue that helps us move. It's now recognized as an endocrine organ. Now, don't let that phrase put you off. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually quite simple. An endocrine organ is something that releases chemical messengers that communicate with other parts of the body. Think of it like sending a text message. When your muscles contract during exercise, they don't just move your arms and legs. They also release signaling proteins called myokines into your bloodstream. These myokines travel around the body, helping different organs communicate with each other. Some influence how your body handles blood sugar. Some help regulate inflammation. Others appear to support brain health, immune function, and recovery. And researchers are still learning exactly how all of these pathways work, but what we already know is incredibly exciting. Your muscles aren't silent. They're constantly communicating with the rest of your body. And I think that's amazing because it changes the way we think about exercise. You're not just exercising your muscles, you're creating a whole body response. Every time you strength train, you're sending signals throughout your body that say, adapt, become stronger, become more resilient, prepare for this again. That's one of the reasons exercise is associated with benefits far beyond strength alone. It supports metabolic health. It helps maintain physical function. It contributes to healthy aging, and it can even have positive effects on mood and cognitive health. Let's have a performance insight. Take Dame Sarah's story. People often focus on the medals, the records, the incredible longevity of her career. But behind those achievements are years of consistently building and maintaining strength. Not because strength was her end goal, but because strength supported everything else she wanted to do. Power on the bike, stability, resilience, recovery, performance. It's a great reminder that muscle isn't just there to make you stronger in the gym. It's there to help you perform better in real life. In my coach's corner, this reminds me of one of my clients who first came to me wanting to lose weight. Like many people, she wasn't interested in strength training. She told me, I just want to lose a bit around my middle. So we started gently introducing resistance exercises alongside the rest of her program. And a few months later, I asked what changes she'd noticed. She talked about her weight, of course, but then she said something that really stuck with me. She said, do you know what? I carried all the shopping in from the car in one trip this week, and I didn't even think about it. That might not sound remarkable, but it was, because she wasn't celebrating a number on the scales. She was celebrating what her body could do. She told me she could get up from the floor more easily when playing with her grandchildren. She felt steadier on the stairs. She wasn't asking her husband to lift heavy boxes anymore. These are moments that matter. That's what muscle gives you. Not just a stronger body, a more capable life. So bringing this all together, I think we've done muscle a disservice by reducing it purely to aesthetics, by talking about it only in terms of six packs or bigger biceps. Because muscle is so much more than that. It's a tissue that helps you move. It supports your joints. It communicates with the rest of your body. It protects your independence. And it's something every single one of us begins to lose naturally as we get older, unless we give our bodies a reason to keep it. So maybe the question isn't, do I want bigger muscles? Maybe the better question is, what kind of life do I want my muscles to help me live? Because once you start thinking about muscle in that way, strength training stops being an appearance and it starts becoming one of the best investments you can make in your future. One of the biggest reasons people start strength training is because they've heard that muscle boosts your metabolism. Now, there's some truth in that, but I also think it's one of the most misunderstood ideas that we have in fitness. You've probably heard people say things like, build more muscle and you'll burn more calories, or muscle burns fat while you're sitting on the sofa. And it sounds brilliant, but it's only part of the story. Yeah, muscle is metabolically active tissue. That means it requires energy to maintain itself, even when you're resting. However, the number of calories muscle burns at rest is often exaggerated online. Adding a few kilos of muscle won't suddenly mean you can eat whatever you like and never gain weight. If only it were that simple. So does muscle increase your resting metabolic rate? Yeah. Is it a magic solution for fat loss? No. And I actually think that's okay. Because the real benefits of muscle are far more impressive than simply burning a few extra calories. Let's talk about one of the most important jobs your muscles perform, helping regulate your blood sugar. Every time you eat carbohydrates, they're broken down into glucose, and that glucose enters your bloodstream. Your body then releases insulin, a hormone that acts as a key, helping move glucose out of the blood and into your cells where it can be used for energy or stored for later. One of the biggest places your body stores glucose is your muscles. In fact, skeletal muscle is one of the largest sites of glucose disposal in the entire body, which means healthier muscles generally do a better job of helping remove glucose from the bloodstream. Exercise makes the system even more efficient. When your muscles contract during training, they increase their demand for energy. And one of the ways they meet that demand is by taking up more glucose. What I find fascinating is that contracting muscles can increase glucose uptake even when insulin isn't working as effectively. It's one of the reasons regular physical activity is so beneficial for metabolic health. Now, that doesn't mean strength training is a cure for medical conditions, but it does help explain why resistance exercise is recommended alongside aerobic exercise as part of a healthy lifestyle. Your muscles aren't just helping you lift weights, they're helping regulate the energy throughout your entire body. Here's an analogy I often use with my clients. Imagine your muscles are like a rechargeable battery. When you exercise, you use some of the energy stored inside of them. Afterwards, when you eat and recover, your body tops those batteries back up. The bigger and healthier your batteries are, the more energy they can store. That's one of the reasons active people often cope better with demanding physical tasks. They've built larger reserves. It's also one of the reasons regular strength training can support overall metabolic health. Not because your muscles are constantly burning huge numbers of calories, but because they're actively involved in how your body stores and uses energy. Let's have a performance insight. Think about a Formula One driver preparing for race day. People often focus on reaction time or fitness, but underneath all of that is metabolic efficiency. Drivers need stable energy levels, good recovery, and the ability to maintain concentration under extreme physical and mental stress. Strength training isn't simply about making them stronger. It's about creating a body that can repeatedly perform under pressure. Their muscles become part of the engine that supports every lap. The same principles apply to us, whether you're racing a Formula One car, running after your children, working 12-hour shifts, or walking your dog every morning. Healthy muscle helps your body meet the demands you place on it. In my coach's corner, I had a client who came to me purely because she wanted to lose weight. She wasn't interested in getting stronger. In fact, she kept saying, as long as the scales go down, I'm happy. And a few months into training, something changed, and she came in one day and said, I've noticed I don't get that afternoon slump anymore. You know the one. She had more energy at work. She wasn't constantly reaching for sugary snacks in the afternoon, and she recovered better after the busy days. Interestingly, she barely mentioned her weight. She was talking about how she felt. And this is something I see quite often. As people become stronger and more active, they start noticing improvements that have nothing to do with the scales. More energy, better movement, greater confidence, feeling capable, sleeping better. Those are enormous wins, and they all contribute to a healthier life. Now, muscle is an investment. And I think one of the biggest mindset shifts we can all make is to stop seeing muscle as something that's only valuable if it changes how we look. Instead, see it as an investment. Every strength session is a deposit into your future health. Every time you challenge your muscles, you're encouraging your body to become a little more resilient, a little more capable, a little better prepared for whatever life throws at you. And unlike many quick fixes in the fitness industry, those benefits continue to pay you back for years. So yeah, muscle does play a role in metabolism, but perhaps more importantly, it helps create a body that's healthier, stronger, and more resilient. And that's worth so much more than simply burning a few extra calories, don't you think? Your future self is counting on you, and I'd like you to imagine yourself 20 or 30 years from now. Take a moment. Picture the life you'd like to be living. Maybe you're traveling, walking your dog, playing with your grandchildren, carrying your own shopping, gardening, climbing stairs without thinking about it, getting up off the floor with ease, living independently. Now ask yourself this question. How much of that depends on your muscles? And the answer is probably far more than most of us realize. One of the natural changes that happens as we age is something called sarcopenia. That's the gradual loss of muscle mass, strength, and function over time. It's a normal part of aging, but normal doesn't mean inevitable. Research suggests that we can begin losing muscle mass from around our 30s, with the rate often accelerating later in life if we don't regularly challenge our muscles. The good news is that strength training and adequate protein intake can significantly slow that process, and in many people increase strength and muscle even later in life. That's incredibly empowering because it means we have influence over how well we age. And here's something I think is fascinating. When we talk about aging, people often focus on wrinkles or grey hair. But from the health perspective, one of the biggest changes is often a gradual decline in muscle strength. And strength isn't just about lifting heavy weights. It's about everyday movements. Can you stand up from a chair without using your hands? Can you carry your shopping? Can you climb a flight of stairs without feeling unsteady? Can you catch yourself if you trip? Those are strength tasks. They're also independence tasks. Muscle works closely with your bones, tendons, and nervous system. When you strength train, you're not only encouraging your muscles to adapt, you're also placing healthy stress on your bones, helping maintain bone density. That's particularly important for women after menopause, when the decline in estrogen can increase the risk of osteoporosis and fractures. So strength training isn't simply preparing you for your next gym session, it's helping prepare your body for the decades ahead. One of the things I love about working in motorsport is seeing how seriously athletes take preparation. A racing driver doesn't wait until qualifying to start thinking about performance. Their preparation begins months beforehand. Every gym session, every meal, every recovery strategy, every hour of sleep. It's all an investment in performance that's still to come. And I think we should all look at our own health in exactly the same way. Every strength session you complete today is preparation for the life you want in 10, 20, or even 30 years. You're not just training for today's workout. You're training for the person you're going to become. And in my coach's corner, one of my clients said something recently that really made me smile. He'd been strength training consistently for several months. And one day he came into the gym and said, "You're going to laugh at me, but I carried a huge bag of compost around the garden at the weekend, and halfway through, I realized I wasn't even struggling." He wasn't celebrating dropping a clothing size. He wasn't talking about the scales. He was celebrating his capability. I had another client tell me that she was going on holiday, and before she knew it, she'd taken her heavy, loaded suitcase all the way down the stairs without asking her other half to help her. And another who got down on the floor to play with her grandchildren realised she could stand back up without grabbing onto the sofa. And another who said she no longer dreaded carrying shopping from the car. These might sound like small moments, but they're not. They're moments of freedom. They're moments of independence, and they're exactly why I care so much about helping people become stronger. Sometimes people tell me, I wish I'd started years ago. And of course, starting earlier would have been great. But the second best time to start is now. Your muscles don't know how old you are. They respond to being challenged. They respond to progressive overload, and they respond to movement. I've worked with people in their 50s, 60s and beyond who have become dramatically stronger than they ever thought possible. Not because they were trying to become athletes or anything like that, because they wanted to help living life on their own terms. And I think that's a goal worth chasing. Not six-pack abs, not perfection, not looking like someone else on Instagram. Being strong enough to live the life you want, to say yes to a venture, to pick up your grandchildren, to walk the hills on holiday, to stay independent and to have choices. Because ultimately, strength gives you options. And the more options you have as you get older, the richer your life can become. Building muscle doesn't have to take over your life. So after everything we've talked about today, you might be thinking, this all sounds great, Ali, but how do I actually build muscle? Do I need to spend 2 hours a day in the gym? Do I need to lift enormous weights? Do I need to eat chicken and broccoli every 3 hours? Do I need to become a bodybuilder? The answer to all those questions is no. Building muscle is actually much simpler than the fitness industry often makes it seem. Not necessarily easy, but it's simple. Your muscles only really ask for 4 things: a reason to grow, enough building materials, time to recover, and consistency. So let's look at each of those. Number 1, give your muscles a reason to adapt. Your body is incredibly efficient. It doesn't build muscle just because you like bigger arms or stronger legs. It builds muscle because it's responding to a challenge. That's the one key principle of exercise science called progressive overload. Now, don't let that name put you off. It simply means asking your muscles to do a little more over time. That could mean lifting a slightly heavier weight, doing 1 extra rep, improving your technique, increasing the time your muscles are working, or making an exercise a little more challenging. You don't have to double the weight every week. Tiny improvements, repeated consistently, are enough to stimulate adaptation. Your body doesn't need dramatic changes. It responds remarkably well to small, consistent progress. Number 2, feed your muscles. After you've challenged your muscles, they need raw materials to repair and adapt. One of the most important nutrients here is protein. Protein provides the amino acids your body uses to repair and rebuild that muscle tissue. That doesn't mean you need to eat huge amounts or buy expensive supplements. For most people, the priority is simply including a good source of protein regularly throughout the day. Whether that's beans, lentils, tofu, yogurt, eggs, fish, lean meat, or another protein-rich food that fits your lifestyle. The key is planning your nutrition rather than leaving it to chance. Number 3, respect recovery. And this is one that people often overlook. Muscle isn't built when you're lifting the weight. It's built afterwards, during recovery, when you're sleeping, when you're eating well, when your body has the opportunity to repair itself. That's why more isn't always better. Training hard every single day without enough recovery doesn't necessarily speed up progress. In fact, it can slow it down. Recovery isn't being lazy. Recovery is part of your training plan. One thing I've noticed about working with athletes is that nobody expects one brilliant training session to transform their performance. Everything is built over time. A little more strength, a little better reaction speed, a little more aerobic fitness, a little more resilience. These small improvements are repeated over weeks and months until they become a significant competitive advantage. And strength training works exactly the same way. Nobody becomes strong because of one workout. They become strong because they kept turning up. And in my coaching corner, one of my favorite client conversations happened after a lady had been training with me for several months. She looked at the weight she was using and laughed. She said, "I'd never believed if you'd have told me I'd be lifting these weights when I started." The funny thing was she hadn't noticed herself getting stronger at all. It had happened gradually. 1 kilogram here, 1 extra rep there, a little more confidence each month. And that's how progress usually looks. Quiet, steady, almost unremarkable from one week to the next. But if you compare what you are today with where you were 6 months ago, that's when the difference can become quite obvious. This week's challenge, I'd like to leave you with something practical. This week, ask yourself one question. How can I become just 1% stronger? Not 10%, not 50, just 1. Maybe that means choosing a slightly heavier dumbbell or doing 1 extra repetition, adding 1 more strength session to your week or improving your squat technique. Maybe finally trying the free weights you've been avoiding. Small improvements matter because small improvements accumulate. And if there's one thing I hope this episode has changed for you, it's the way you think about muscle. I hope you no longer see it as something that's only important for bodybuilders or elite athletes. I hope you see it for what it really is, a tissue that helps you move, protects your bones, supports your metabolism, improves your health, helps you recover, keeps you independent, and allows you to keep saying yes to the life you want to live. Your muscles aren't just helping you get through today's workout. They're helping you build tomorrow's quality of life. So let's leave today's episode with one simple thought. Don't build muscle because you want to impress other people. Build muscle because one day your future self will thank you for it. For every flight of stairs that feels easier, every suitcase you lift without hesitation, every walk you enjoy, every adventure you say yes to, every year of independence you've helped protect. Because strength isn't just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. If you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd love it if you could share it with someone who still thinks strength training isn't for them. Because the truth is, strength is for all of us, whatever your age, whatever your starting point, whatever your goals. And if you're enjoying the fundamentals of fitness, don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And next week, we're going to dive into another fascinating topic that affects all of us, the recovery mistakes that no one talks about. So until then, stay curious, keep showing up, and remember, stay driven by science and built for performance. I'll see you in the next one.